it is more about building your nation in the world. Yes, there is an achievement for conquering the world. Yes, there is an achievement for conquering the world with arguably the shittiest nation in the game. Yes, there is. It's called the Three Mountains. I think only 4 people have managed to do it. See this here? It's called Ryoku. It's one of the smallest nations in the game. It's arguably also one of the most terrible nations in the game. You can totally conquer the world with that. I wish I was kidding. It's only a couple of people that have managed to do it. I don't think anybody in the dev team have managed to do it. Regardless, it's really one of those things. It's really creating yourself a world that you feel is believable. Well, not so much believable, but a fun way of expanding. Do you want to be a merchant republic? Do you want to be a nation? Do you want, well, monarchy? Do you want to be a republic? It is all possible, really. And in that sense, there's really a lot of cool shit that's going on. Brunei, north of Japan. Yes, there is. Japan wants to be Catholic. Yes, that is sadly one of the functions of westernization. If you become Western, then the locals have the tendency to turn Western, which, you know, you can argue that, you know, westernization in Japan would allow Shintoism to survive for a longer period of time. However, it is, you know, there's problems involved with that. How do you Ryoku in 1.6? Well, ask DDR Jake. Go to the forum. Find out. Shimu is much worse. Yeah, that's because Chimu... You know, Chimu is like... For those people that are... Alright, so I'm going to go and explain how Chimu works. So, Chimu, together with a nation called Albania, are one of the few nations in the game that have almost 0% chance of actually surviving the first year of the game. Why? Because they start out with a war. If you look, for instance, here at the Ottomans. The Ottomans, they start out with a war versus a country called Albania right off the bat. And within about 6 months, maybe even 4 months, they will crush them immediately and integrate them within their nation. This causes all sorts of problems if you want to play as Albania, because, you know, playing as Albania seems pretty cool. However, you won't be able to survive very long because the Ottoman Horde, which is arguably the strongest starting nation in the game, will be knocking on your doors. And if you are an OPM, which is short for a one province minor, i.e. in this case Albania, you're not going to live very long, which causes problems. One other way of actually surviving is Albania in this case, to have a big nation with like Spain. Well, not Spain because you don't have them at the start of the game, obviously. Maybe Hungary. Not even Hungary, actually, at the start of the game. Hungary is pretty much on its ass at the start because the game starts in 4044, which is right after the Last Crusade. For those people that know their history, specifically their late medieval history, Hungary didn't do so well. Kind of to the point that their king was kind of dead because of that crusade. And they're kind of, you know, low on their morale. So you're going to need to ally with, say, Austria. The problem with that is, again, you start off in a war already. So being able to call in Austria into that war is not going to happen. So what you got to do is, one option is that you just go in and say, hey, you know, I may get in. You know, it could fight a war against Ottomans, force them to release Albania, because that is definitely an option, and then play as them, and then grow them for the greater glory of Albania. Chimu is another example of that. I'm not quite sure where Chimu actually is. Let me see here if I can find it. If it is actually a province. I don't think it's actually a province name. It's just a nation name. And I can't tag into it either, because we're playing multiplayer and I can't tag into anything. However, it kind of causes issues. And that is an explanation why Ryoku is probably the worst game, the worst possible nation in the game to actually win Europa Universalis with. But I say win, even though there is no, you know, winning standards. This is not a game like March of the Eagles where you can win. What is the lowest level? What is lowest level? Ground troops control. I'm gonna go and guess. Like, feel free to correct me here. What you actually mean by that is, what do you control? You control divisions of 1,000, so that can be either infantry, cavalry, or artillery, depending on your mixture of your armies. There's no planes in this game. The game ends in 1821, which is slightly before airplanes were designed, even though balloons were technically popped up at that point by the French. However, we can be anachronistic and say that canals can be built in the game. So Panama Canal, Suez Canal, Kiel Canal, that's all possible within the constraints of the game, and that is a function of what we call the Great Works system, something that we may or may not flesh out in the future depending on how the game performs. Basically, our policy is when it comes to doing expansions, if the game does well, we'll continue to support it. If it's not, then no. The most important question in the world is being asked, can Poland into space? There's an achievement for that. Yes, if you actually hit technology level 32 on Poland, then yes, you can in fact get Poland into space. It's a good thing that the Poland ball community comes out in massive. Survive Albania without going in Italy. Chimu's west of Inca. That is a good point. Inca is dead in this game, sadly enough, so we won't be able to actually see it. Do you know the leader of Albania to start? No, I sadly don't. I sadly was born in I was sadly born in 1980s. There's only one war going on. It's not really much going on at the moment in the actual game. Again, this is why I'm waffling really a little bit. Oh my god. There's people from Reflex in the chat. That is scary. Man, that is nostalgia right there. Sweet nostalgia. For those people that don't know what Reflex is, don't worry about it. It's not important. Anyway, let's see here. I think it may be impossible to get 3 mountains in the current patch. Possibly. However, we will most likely continue to patch the game. For those people that are not aware, like I said earlier, we generally continue to support our games as long as people, support the game. And the way we actually do our content rollouts is we do patches called content patches, and basically what that means is we do these massive content updates where people can pretty much play almost anything in the game with a couple of core new mechanics being added in the actual expansions themselves. So even if you are new to even if you buy the game, you generally get an updated experience with every single patch. However, if you want to delve a little bit deeper with that, then you'll generally have to buy the expansion. A good example of this is Crusader Kings 2, where we recently had an expansion called Rajas of India, which we announced at PDXCon earlier this year. Basically, what the idea there is that we added the subcontinent of India. You can totally, even if you have the base game, you can totally invade India. However, if you don't have the expansion, you cannot play as the Indian rulers, and that's basically the way that works. Also, if you want to play multiplayer, no worries. What you can do is you can just come out and say, "Hey, bro, you got the expansion because I don't." Well, that's fine because jumping on multiplayer, the host has got the expansion. It means everybody can play with that expansion. Forgive my ignorance. Again, my English. Forgive my ignorance or comparison. What does a player do per turn or round? All right, so I'm going to go down to the absolute basics of this game now and explain to you what a playthrough of EU generally exists. I'm going to go and pick a nation, a standard nation. We are in Sweden, of course, so I will pick Sweden for this particular illustration. This is the screen you're seeing right now is pretty much the screen you would see at the start of the game. Sweden, in this particular case, starts out in the Kalmar Union, which is a royal union between the kingdoms of Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, at least what is currently Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. Basically, that means that Norway and Sweden start out as vassals of Denmark, which means that Denmark are their overlord. They will have to join Denmark in any war that they start. So, for instance, let's see how this would work. The game is set up in days. You can lower the speed of your playthrough at any time you want. You can go faster, you can go slower, you can let the days tick by slowly, or just go at pretty much the speed of plaid and let days going by if you feel that for a certain amount of time nothing's going to happen. What you can do is you can build buildings in your territory. You can dispute successions. You can get alliances. The diplomacy in this game is incredibly deep. So if you actually go to the diplomacy window, if we go in, for instance, I can't actually do it because I am a observer. However, you can talk to any nation in the game and have and try to get diplomacy with them. You want to do trade. You can do trade all over the place. We have. If we actually go to the map mode for that, we can go and have actually trade for this. All these little buttons down here, they're all mechanics, all map modes in the actual game. So we have Protestants, for instance, right now, of course, at the start of the game, it's Catholic because the Protestant religion doesn't, or at least the Protestant version of Christianity doesn't exist in 1444. As you can see, it has taken over most of the world. If you start out with Catholicism, you can, for instance, and I quickly need to take a look at who is actually Catholic. It is Spain. So if we go in the papacy window, we can play with... we can actually vote in new cardinals and all that sort of thing. And basically the whole idea is to create an empire around you by taking all the functionalities and all the features you have available at your fingertips to create this empire and make a world a better place for your nation. This can mean that you become a dominant power within Europe or Asia or what have you not, or become, say, a colonial empire like the Danes have been doing so far. So the Danish, for instance, have managed to expand all the way through the Americas so far. And the idea is to progress over time, starting at 1444, finishing in 1821, and become this powerhouse of a nation. Go to wars with your rivals, and we have a system for that is fairly new now as well. Go to war with your rivals and come out on top. There is no victory conditions in our game. It's pretty much a historical sandbox, which allows you to pretty much do whatever you want within the confines of history. It is not. It takes a long time to finish a game, and it is a very zen thing to do. The one more turn sort of mentality really does apply to our games. Are you going to make Victoria 3? I don't know. Lithuania and Muscovy are at war. Actually, let's take a look, shall we? Well, in this particular game, considering Muscovy is very, very small, I would not be surprised if that is actually the case. The Muscovians are at war with Georgia. It's Lithuania and Muscovy together that are at war. All right, Denmark is at war here with the Spanish. Why are they at war with the Spanish? It is because of the Danish conquest of the Canaries. Interesting. So we have this military window, or this war window, and basically everything is set up through a system called War Score. Right now, the Danes are trying to conquer this island of the Canaries, and it's actually Castile that they're trying to conquer, and not Spain. My apologies. Spain has a completely different flag, even though Castile generally forms Spain. That's a whole different ballgame. And right now they're trying to conquer the Canaries, which is going to be easy, and it means Castile will be wiped off the map. And basically we have all these functionalities, all these windows where we can pretty much go through all the areas to conquer the world. And we're giving you all these tools in order to create a new world around you and pretty much shape history as you feel it should have happened and not the way it happened. For instance, we have an achievement for the Aztecs conquering Europe. I wish I was kidding. Victory conditions. Survive. That is fairly accurate. Canaries or Canaries? Oh, that's a bit of... I'm just quickly going through the chat here and see what you guys have actually been saying so far. Oh my god, there's a Northern Lion fan in the chat. Absolute basics. Sweden's in a Kalmar Union. Yeah, well, it's not exactly basics, but you get the idea.